Simone, I'm excited to be here with you today. Today, we are going to be revisiting a topic that we have talked about before, but
Oh, no.
with a different question and with some new evidence, which is why are progressives so unhappy when contrasted with conservatives? And this is something that's been very persistent. Since Pew started recording polling on progressives and Democrats, progressives have been unhappy, but it's gotten sharper recently. And you also see many more mental health problems among progressives. You can go to our previous episode on this if you want us to just shower you with data on this.
We got to
But
help them.
what I
If we
wanted
find
to
out
do,
what makes them so miserable, maybe we can save them. We can pull them out of the dark hole.
To fight the bug, we must understand the bug. We can ill afford another Clendathu.
Would you like to know more? What mysteries will the brain bug reveal? Federal scientists are working around the clock to probe its secrets. Once we understand the bug, we will defeat it.
Oh my God, Mal.
because they're bugmen, Simone. They defend it. They say this themselves. They have videos on YouTube with like hundreds of thousands or millions of views saying that the bugs were in the right, that the Federation was evil, that this was a false flag attack, that the Federation deserves to be destroyed. And by the way, we know it's not a false flag attack because we saw the asteroid hit the Ticonderoga, the big spaceship, outside our solar system, meaning that it had to come from quite far away. And because it knocked out their, you know what? You should watch our Starship Troopers episode if you care about how we know it's not a false flag attack.
Take his word for it, people.
No, don't take my word for it. Go watch that episode. We need the watch time, Simone. And it's a good episode.
Go watch the episode.
But in this episode, we're going to be going over a post from Mike Pesca and Nate Silver titled, What Explains the Liberal Conservative Happiness Gap? And this is in the Silver Bulletin. And he goes over a few graphs that I hadn't seen before.
Oh.
And what these graphs do is they look at demographically where the gap is biggest. And from that, and just so people know these people's like political, like Nate Silver is a very mainstream centrist pollster.
Of 538 fame.
538, yeah.
Yeah.
He's been pretty sane from what I've seen. And so I'd be very interested to see his views on this as somebody who's not going to have the, charged conservatives perspective that we're going to have.
Although he has been attacked by the left for one of the reasons being that he called Trump 2016 when
really
everyone else, they were like,
when
how dare
everybody
you?
said, "Oh, it's impossible that he can win." No, he didn't even call it. He just said it's really possible, and we need to stop saying it's only a 1 or 2% chance. And they said that he was like a Trump agent. Trump won, of course. But they never went back on saying he needed to be deplatformed.
Yeah, they defenestrated him for saying that it was a very real possibility.
Yeah, and this is one of the areas where my believing the left really began to broke, and I began to move. Where I was just like, wait. So you are all lying? Do we not care about that? And when I think that this is also really different, like the left, everyone was lying and everyone was just like, okay, it's all over under the bus. Right now, with the Epstein files, we've even gone over why Trump is probably actually keeping them quiet in an episode. And his own side is just like, nope. Like at a Trump rally recently, like one of his supporters held up a picture of Trump and Epstein together. And they're like, nope, you actually gotta explain this. You got some explaining to do here, buddy.
Yeah.
Why didn't you release those files that everyone said existed? But anyway.
Oh, boy.
Young people in general report fairly miserable mental health with rates of anxiety and depression, but this is particularly true for young women, and assumptions Democrats make about how to attract younger voters may not appeal to men. Still, arguably, the SBSQ buried the most interesting finding, which is that conservatives have a much higher level of self-reported mental health than liberals. It's a wide gap, according to the 2020 Comparative Election Study, CES, a very large sample of 60,000 respondents that provides the opportunity for highly detailed demographic analysis among people who report quote-unquote excellent mental health. Conservatives outnumber liberals 51 to 20. Literally have over double the rate. Wow. Well over double the rate of liberals at that category, 51 to 20. Even if you double the number of liberals in that category, it'd only be 40 to 51. So this is shocking. Just liberals do not have excellent mental health. But liberals outnumber conservatives 45-19 among voters who say they have poor mental health. So keep in mind how extreme that is. That means even if you doubled the conservative number there, you would still be at 38-45 with liberals having way poorer mental health. So
Is this a product of, I remember, for example, when pharmaceutical companies tried to introduce antidepressants to Japan, they also had to introduce the concept of depression because it just wasn't a thing. Is this more a product of conservatives just not believing in poor mental health the same way that the left does?
progressives are going to say this, but the reality is that if you look at the studies around this, if you do not believe in mental health problems, you typically are not susceptible to those mental health
Well,
problems.
yeah, that's kind of my point. Is that like they don't believe in the demons, so the demons cannot possess them.
What a progressive would say is, well, they're reporting their mental health as excellent, even though they have depression.
Oh,
Uh,
like you just don't realize that you're dealing with unrealized trauma. You need to
yes,
see a therapist.
they just need to go see a psychiatrist, and then they'd have it all fixed up for
Oh, you
them.
know what? Back when they were still progressives on X, they used to say things like that all the time. Like talk about like the unaddressed mental issues that we
Yeah,
undoubtedly have.
they'd say it's not that conservatives have way lower mental health issues. They'd say it's that they just do not acknowledge the issues that they do have.
Okay.
And I do not think that the data suggests that when you look at things like happiness rates, which we'll get to.
Oh yeah.
Conservatives clearly understand the concept of being unhappy.
Yeah.
So,
Do they,
clearly.
Malcolm? Do
Well,
they?
I mean, I think it's also just like obviously true when you think of the people and like we have high performing friends on both sides of the aisle, and most of the high performing friends that we have who are progressives have what I would consider as self imposed major mental health issues.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, and the ones we have that are conservative have almost none
Yeah.
because it's just not normative. Like, why indulge in that? So much of this is another episode. We won't get into this now, but I'm going to put the chart on the screen here so you can get an idea of just like how extreme the differences are between these two groups in terms of mental health rates.
Mm.
And then they go on to say here, could this reflection reflect a spurious correlation? In other words, that voters with characteristics associated with low happiness tend to be attracted to liberalism, but that political attitudes themselves don't tell you much on their own? In short, no, or at least probably not. The difference between liberals and conservatives is remarkably persistent, even once you control for these factors. I'm going to show you a very long chart where I translated the 5 choices that the CES provided to a 100-point scale: 0 for poor mental health, 25 for fair, 50 for good, and 75 for very good, and 100 for excellent. The average American self-reports at 60 on this scale. In other words, somewhere between good and very good mental health. But liberals average at 53 and conservatives at 68. I'm
Huh.
just going to ignore moderates for the rest of this post because they're predictably somewhere in the middle, averaging at 58.
Okay.
Taking advantage of the large sample size in the CES, let's see how this difference holds up across a wide array of demographic and political characteristics. The data is just taken directly from the CES. There's no fancy modeling of any kind. And note here that I guess this is why I hadn't seen it, because he's translating the data in a different way. But I'm going to send you some pictures of this so you can also try to find interesting things like that. All right. So the reason I wanted to do this is because I wanted to go over where some of these are bigger and smaller, because this way we can understand susceptibility. This is looking at happiness here, by the way, not mental health. So we're trying to understand what is it specifically, like what demographics seem to be most exposed to this gap when you differentiate out their conservative versus liberal voters. And I would note here, was in literally no demographic is this trend opposite. And so this actually really matters, because somebody might say something like, well, I mean, clearly, if you're gay and you're around all gay people and you want gay lovers, you're going to be less happy with your life if you're a conservative gay person, right? Because, presumably your friends are going to be less approving of you. You're not going to be satisfied with yourself. And we see that this is actually not true, not even close. The gays on the progressive side were at a 49, and the conservatives who were gay were at a 60. So not even close to the same level of happiness. So even if you were part of one of these quote unquote discriminated groups, you see that this helps you a ton.
That's
So like
crazy.
right here, like consider you're black, right?
Yeah.
60 if you're a progressive, 68 if you're a conservative.
Yeah.
So we'll start by looking at men versus women. What's
Okay.
interesting here? Women seem to benefit more from men happiness wise by being conservative.
Yeah.
Small thing, but
1 point for trad wives.
if you're looking at race, who is it that benefits the most by being conservative? It turns out is
Equally, well, no. White people benefit the most from
no,
being
white people
conservative.
benefit about as much as Hispanic or Asian because look, their top happiness is a little bit lower. So white people, Hispanics, and Asians all benefit about the same, whereas other are mixed benefits by far the most, and
Hmm.
black benefits the least by about half, which is really interesting. Why do you suppose that is? Why would
Yeah,
black
why are
benefit the least?
I think that of progressives, black progressives are the most distinctive from the urban monoculture. Like they're more likely to maintain
Their
a
views
unique
around like
sense of
being gay
culture.
is bad and like, yeah, you're right.
So I think it's just resistance to the urban
Well,
monoculture that
no,
we're
hold
seeing now.
on. What you're showing here is what's causing this.
Uh,
It's the urban monoculture. The more seeped in the urban, this is the hypothesis we're going with right now. The more seeped in the urban monoculture, this is the culture of the urban elites, the more affected a group is going to be by going from left to right. The less affected by the urban monoculture, the more it's a sign that they are exiting the urban monoculture to identify as a rightist, the more positively they will be affected by this.
yeah.
That is a going hypothesis right now, okay?
Yeah.
So who's affected the least by this age-wise? It is the older generations, like the silent generation.
Hmm.
Who's affected the most by this? Gen Z. That would work with the urban monocultural theory
Yeah.
because Gen Z is going to be more exposed to the urban monoculture than the silent generation or than Gen X.
Yeah, I mean they're functionally not even. I mean the liberals of silent generation that was born after 1960 or sorry, before 1964 is at the same position basically as the most conservative of Gen X, which was born from 1965 to 1980.
It's actually
So,
wild. The conservative Gen Zs are less happy than the progressive silent generation.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Educational attainment. You see the lowest amount of impact. So again, we're going with the urban monocultural hypothesis, less exposure to the urban elite ideology, the urban monocultural ideology. So you would expect, okay, no high school or just high school. Yes, they're the least affected by far. Where, some college, 4-year degree, post grad are all about the same in terms of how affected they are. What's also notable here is the more education you get, the happier you are in this graph, if you've noted that, like with both groups, with a high school degree only, conservatives with a high school degree only are only slightly more happy than progressives with a PhD.
Oh my
All the
god.
good it does you to be more happy, but I'm just pointing out here. Okay.
Slight
Um,
opportunities here. Yeah.
Household
Yeah, I guess
income.
this is helpful in that if you want to stay a progressive, you can look at least at factors that correlate with less depression on the progressive end. And yeah,
But let's go to the household income here, which I also find really interesting.
yeah,
Those with the least household income and the most household income appear to be least affected by this. This also aligns with me because you can have the power to resist the urban elite mindset more when you have a high amount of income, and you can just ignore it if you have a low amount of income. What's really interesting about this as well is that happiness goes up pretty much lock in step with income. But note the top income level here is 100K. Now, what I find interesting is while happiness goes up lockstep with income, having the gap in happiness is so high that your average family with less than 30K household income that is conservative is exactly as happy as your average family with over 100K income who is progressive.
I kind of feel like also progressives are way more likely to be urban. And if you're living, let's say you make 100K, but you live in Manhattan, you're
Okay,
struggling. You're
okay,
struggling.
I'll buy this carve out, Simone.
It's very stressful. Whereas if
Have
you
your
are conservative and
lollipop.
you
Have
live
your
in
lollipop.
rural Idaho. It's our children that are obsessed with lollipops. Typed in
Yeah,
last night
well,
insisting that an apple was a lollipop. When can she just chew?
yeah, our daughter likes to eat like apples and bread like she eats lollipops, which is just.
She makes no pro. You don't. It won't be consumed. That you can't lick an apple and get anything or bread. Oh, okay.
And I'll tell her it's not a lollipop, and she'll go, "No,
It's a lollipop
it's a lollipop."
because she knows way better than we do.
You know way better than we
But
do.
it's telling when you look at the religion section that
Yeah,
just
yeah,
being
yeah.
religious means you're going to be happier than if you're not religious.
Yeah, so
Basically,
religion's way happier,
yeah,
right? It also it's you're happier if you're a Protestant or a Catholic than other named religion, i.e., Muslim or Jew.
yeah,
But what's interesting here about religion is that the religious categories are affected by this very little. Like
yeah. Very small
Protestant
gaps
and
between
Catholic
conservative.
have a very small gap between the progressives and the conservatives in terms of
Very
their happiness,
interesting.
whereas you see a much larger gap on the atheist and agnostic category.
Yeah,
Also, fun to note here that if you are an atheist and you are conservative, you have the around the same happiness level as a Protestant or Catholic who is progressive.
whatever. I mean, also this explains why birth rates are so low among. Well, another reason why they're so low among progressives because marriage and children. If you're married and you're conservative, you're pretty freaking happy,
Oh
or even
wow, yeah, like
unmarried.
happiness rates. This is really interesting. So married or in a domestic partnership, in your conservative, your happiness rate is 71. That is really high.
Yeah,
That means that conservatives who are married are like nearly ecstatic, which is wild to me actually to see how high that is because I hadn't seen that broken out before. Now, the unmarried or separated seem to have a wider divide between them, but I don't know if that's like more exposure to urban monoculture.
yeah. I don't know.
Um,
I don't know. What's
uh,
interesting though is if you're conservative and you have children who are grown, like you're an empty nester, you are significantly more happy than if you are conservative and you have children under 18 in the household.
yeah.
I think there's this like they're actually it's a pretty close rate, 56 versus 65, with 65 being conservatives, 56 progressives. I think there is stress of raising kids, and I think that's reflected in these numbers, which is interesting.
Well, what's interesting here to me is that the never had children category, progressives who never have children are like so unhappy.
Yeah,
They're
gosh, this really goes to show like being a dink is probably not going to predict a lot of happiness for you. Yikes. That's one of the lowest rates. I mean, if you look at this
yeah, that's
entire
one of the
chart,
lowest total rates. Is anyone less
the
happy
only
than
thing that could make you more miserable is to be bisexual, but you're
No, hold
probably
on, hold on,
also
hold on. What can make you more miserable is to be a Gen Z progressive. That's slightly more miserable.
uh-huh.
We'll get to the bisexual one in a bit because that number is staggering.
Oh.
But the yeah, and
But
never
aren't like so many Gen Zs childless, bisexual, non-religious? No wonder
No, no,
they're
no. I'm
miserable.
just saying here that the two number one ways to be unhappy is to be a progressive who's never had kids or a Gen Z progressive. And then wait, how do you top the conservative on this chart? The top conservatives on this chart are conservatives earning 100K a year who have a postgraduate degree, are in the silent generation,
With grown
or
children. Yes.
have children or are just married.
Yeah.
That is wild. But now we're going to go to sexual orientation. I think this is the most telling, right? So you can say like, okay, if you are like which group between its progressive faction and its conservative faction is this most likely to be a sign of exposure to the urban monoculture, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like agreeing with urban monocultural norms. And I'd say sexual orientation. And this is where you see by far the largest line in the entire chart in terms of distribution of happiness. And that is around bisexual or other. Progressive, it is only 35, whereas conservatives, it's 59. So even on like the medium high end of this chart, whereas progressives, it's the lowest number on the chart by about 10 points. Like that is absolutely wild. And people can be like, what do I mean by this? If you are a progressive other or bisexual identified individual, you're almost certainly pure urban monoculture brain. Like
Yeah.
everyone I see, just because it's an opt-in identity for them. If you are a conservative and you have one of these identities, it likely means that like you're just actually bisexual, but like you do not want to engage with the rest of this nonsense, right? Like,
Mm.
so you are going to be uniquely steeled against the rest of this nonsense, or you're a based traditionalist conservative. So I've heard a lot of like Christian women be like, yeah, I'm attracted to women. Like I'm bisexual. I'm just not going to do that because like the Bible.
Well, yeah, I wonder if bisexual is more a way of, okay, like I am actually gay or lesbian, but I'm also gonna get married, so I better call myself bisexual. Like, do you
Yeah.
think a lesbian woman or gay man who chooses to enter a heterosexual marriage would just call themselves bisexual instead? Because maybe that's what's going on.
No, they wouldn't, and they don't often. They often just say, "I'm gay, but I want to do this." This
Yeah.
would be more like, okay, suppose like Grimes, who's talked about wanting to convert to Catholicism occasionally, or like various forms of Christian, and then she did that, and she became a conservative. She'd still call herself bisexual. Like she's not going to ignore, her arousal patterns or her past or something. So I think that that's what we're seeing here. Interestingly, don't see like that huge of a boost if you're gay or lesbian, but I assume that's just from being in those communities. And here I'd also note that these groups who, your progressive would say, you're trans or you're gay or you're a bisexual person who is in conservatives and in conservative social circles and sees themselves through a conservative eye is going to like themselves less. And we can be like, that's objectively not true.
Yeah.
By like a huge statistical number. So this is what I mean when I say at the end of the day, the Conservative Party really is the party of the normal gay.
Okay.
As what's his face? This was coined by J.D. Vance in that speech at the.
He coined normal gays.
Yeah, this was at the, what was it called again? They have the mid thing during the campaign cycle where everyone gets together and they do all the important speeches. And he did it with.
Oh, the Republican
Yeah, sure,
convention?
sure. Yeah, and he's
The
like, "The
national
normal
convention?
gays support us." He's like,
The
he
normal
goes, "I
gays.
bet even the majority of normal gays support Republicans these days," or something
Well,
along those.
I will say, like, the conservative gays that we know are pretty freaking happy people. They have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And when I follow a bunch of progressive gays online, and they talk about how they have to not look at any commentary about them online because it's self-harm. But yeah, it's just hard. It's hard being anything and also being urban monoculture because everything is about trauma and pain and suffering.
so
So of
here's an
course they're
interesting
anti-natalist.
one that might surprise people. Some people are like, "I just don't engage with the news because it's toxic." Like politics. I'm above that. Well, it turns out the more you engage with politics, whether you are progressive or conservative, the happier you are.
That's so interesting because
Um,
I would have. This surprises me. I would have expected the opposite.
I think it has to do with a person's level of agenticness and vitality for life. Like, do they
Oh yeah, I guess
actually?
being excited about the world, right?
Yeah.
Because there was, I told you about the when the one conversation I had at Dialogue where one of the people at the table was trying to make an argument as to how not engaging with the news meant you were more in touch with reality. And he polled everyone on, like, okay, has crime gone up or down? Like, what are the rates of this in the world, that in the world?
That's
And the
not what he's
people,
asked, though.
what?
Oh, continue.
The people who reported watching the news were way more off on all of the assessments of actual reality, like how much crime is taking place, what's going on, than the people who didn't actually consume news.
Yeah, no, and I think that what he was asking was mainstream news.
Huh.
This asks is high interest in news or political interest. I would
Oh
consider
yeah,
that
so yeah,
as
because
more.
there's a really big difference between passive consumption and active seeking, and I think active seeking is a sign of vitality and interest, and not depression, the
Right,
opposite of
but
depression.
here news, when he said news, he
Uh
meant like
huh.
CNN, Fox, etc.
Yeah,
The way
yeah.
this question is worded means like Nuxanor and Asmongold and Us and Leaflet.
Yeah, or
I
like
mean,
doing research on Wikipedia and trying to learn about something,
yeah,
right?
which
Okay,
is very different than
okay,
thinking you're informed because you read the New York Times.
okay. That's
Um,
fair.
so what we're seeing here is even if you're a Democrat, if you think that you can change the future of the world, right, you're going to have a more internal locus of control.
Uh
I
huh.
think a person's level of political engagement is in part a level of their agenticness and their belief in their ability to influence the future and their level of internal or external locus of control. Do they believe the world is happening to them or are they happening to the world?
Yeah, that makes sense.
which is really interesting. Also, it's really interesting that if you have a high news and political interest and you are conservative, that is one of the highest happiness categories on the entire chart. That's 73, higher than conservatives with kids.
Isn't that crazy?
That is actually kind of crazy, right? Like being a highly politically engaged conservative is going to make you very, very happy. I mean, I
This is
know,
very similar to the research that you covered on the extent to which people were really negatively affected by social media and online engagement only if they were progressives. And if they were conservatives, it didn't really matter. Like it wasn't toxic, it wasn't
yeah.
terrible. They were fine.
Well,
And
and
here
that
we
again
go.
indicates that urban monoculture is the point of this. But I'd also point out for people if they're like, well, at least if I'm a progressive and I'm really politically engaged, I'm going to be happier. And it's like,
No.
technically than other progressives, but you still come in well below the happiness of low political engagement or medium political engagement conservatives.
Yeah.
You're
Well, and
clocking in
which
at
makes
a
sense because it's such a negative narrative like of the world that is
yeah.
painted by most progressive news coverage. Everything's horrible, terrible things are happening to people, crime is
Well,
worse.
you're clocking it at a 57 versus their 64 or 60.
Yeah.
Which I completely, I mean, I understand that they try to, but conservatives are all like, look at the terrible things, look at the elitist PDA file networks, look at all the corruption in government, look at all these incompetent politicians,
That
like
sounds like tittering gossip to me. That's euphoric, Malcolm. That's not dysphoric.
I think both sides get a lot of negatives. It's just conservatives think, okay, well then let's fix it.
Hmm.
And I think that also differentiates
Agentic versus
low
communal
high
again.
political engagement groups.
Hmm.
Then, if we go to social media activity, I found this pretty easily. So, audience, if you were to predict who is happier, recently posted on social media or no recent social media posts. Recently posted on social media is happier, both conservative and progressive, which is pretty interesting to me. With recently posted on social media, progressives at 55 and conservatives at 69. So really high. Like if you're recently posted on social media, conservatives, you're a very happy person, but you're not like that differentiated from those recent post conservatives. That's 50 as progressives versus 65 as conservatives. Found that really interesting. I attended a political protest in the past year. Now, this one is really interesting because it's also one of the longest lines on this graph. And I think it also has a high level of predictivity of whether or not you're in the urban monoculture or not. And this
Yeah.
is, yes, you have attended a political protest in the last year. And with progressives, you're very unhappy, 51. And with conservatives, you're fairly happy, 68. But what's interesting here is that conservatives, if you did not attend a political event, you're at the exact same level, 68. And whereas if you're progressive, you're slightly happier, 53. And what this indicates to me is I think you're pretty much equally likely if you haven't or have attended an event, if you're a conservative, that you are outside the urban monoculture. But for progressives, if you haven't, you're slightly more likely to be outside the urban monoculture.
Yeah.
So all of these things taken together, the black thing, the bisexual thing, the age thing, it says to me that this is all downstream of urban monocultural norms. It is the urban monoculture itself which is destroying people's both mental health and happiness level. And we
Hmm.
have pointed out this conjecture in the past, but I think that this evidence for me really confirms my pre-existing hypothesis. And if people are like, why does the urban monoculture create this mental damage? It's because it's so highly externalizing. And nothing is ever really your fault. Everything is always somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Everything is always the fault of society. And there's nothing that you can really do about anything but screech at people. And then when you go to your friends for support or you try to interact with your own community, they all screech at you because it's this crazy social dominance fight. And worse, you've been coddled and coddled and coddled because they told you the only thing that mattered is feeling good and self-affirmation and feeling comfortable with yourself. And so you've lived this life where you just constantly sought this, whatever pronouns you wanted to use that day, whatever way you wanted to see yourself that day. Everyone had to affirm you, which gave you very poor mental robustness and allowed you to quickly mentally degrade when
Hmm.
exposed to anything that was, potentially negative or disconfirming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah,
So, yeah, I guess there's not a lot tactically you can do aside from just abandon mainstream progressive culture if you really want to feel better, which is hard, possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
What would
Well,
you
I mean,
advise to
what is
someone
your
who
takeaway from this information or thoughts?
my big takeaway is being bisexual is apparently terrible for you. I figured it was like the more chill sexual orientation because it wasn't particularly tied to any controversy aside from people saying that there's no such thing as bisexuals. And I didn't realize just how apparently terrible it is for you. And I still don't.
It's not that bad if you're conservative, but it's still not good. Like you're the conservative bisexuals are less happy than the conservative gays.
Yeah. Do
Well,
you
I think it's
think
like, pick a side.
progressive bisexuals are extra miserable because they're seen as not going all the way with a sexual identity that they really should be
No, because
identifying
the
as?
category here isn't bisexual, it's bisexual or other. And that
Oh.
includes all of the made up sexualities and transsexualities and everything like
Oh,
that.
like attack helicopter, but serious.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like 50% of trans people. You know,
No.
well, come on. We joke. We
I
had the
think people who identified as attack helicopters would be
no. When
happier
I
than
say
most
attack
trans people.
helicopter, what I mean is somebody who obviously is not trans by any definition. Like we always like if you watch our Fun Day Fridays episode, I'm like, they keep calling themselves a queer couple, but like clearly neither of them is
Oh,
trans, and
yeah.
they look like a heterosexual couple to me. So what
Yeah.
it means is that one of them decided to identify as a different gender or as genderqueer, and
Um,
now the other one has to identify as bisexual because they're dating a genderqueer person, and now
yeah.
they're both stuck in the bisexual bubble because, well, at one point I was straight, but now you identify as sure. So all of a sudden, I have to say that I'm been actually queer this whole time because I had no idea. I was dating somebody who wasn't the gender I thought they were, and I found them attractive this entire time, but they saw themselves as a sure. So now I'm bisexual. No, this happens so often to progressives in relationships. They're dating somebody, dating somebody, dating somebody, think they're in a heterosexual or gay relationship, and then their partner comes to them and is like, actually, I'm genderqueer. Now, they can say, well, actually, I'm still gay. And then the person's like, well, you're not gay because you found me attractive. So now they're bisexual or other
Um,
in the phylogeny of the progressive left. So this is just pulling people in the more in the urban monoculture they are instead of just like regular bisexual they are.
okay.
I also found the political involvement one very interesting, that you're better off being more politically involved.
Yeah, that runs counter to a lot of the common sense that spreads. So this was useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the end, though, I think just generally not believing in it. Let's just not believe in it. I don't believe in mental health.
Well, I've thought a lot about it, Simone, and I'm not sure I'm totally comfortable with my gender.
Well,
So I'm
then we
gonna.
can we both identify as attack helicopter because I think that's the best gender slash sexual
What is so
orientation.
funny is, we'll go viral on a platform, and somebody will be like, "Oh, look at the way he looks. Look at that. Like I've seen people like this before, and they're just waiting to come out, right? Like they're just, and what they're really just noting there, and I think they're actually noting in a recent episode we talked about like social class and conservative versus progressive, and we noted that progressives often try to code as upper middle class, and conservatives often try to code as lower middle class or lower class.
Hmm.
And because we code as upper middle class, people are sometimes very confused about like where we stand on things.
Very uncomfortable, very threatened.
Right. And what they're really saying is, oh no, you look like you've been heavily brainwashed by the urban monoculture. Therefore, it's only a few years before you come out as an attack helicopter, or what really happens. And I think that, hyperbolizing this underlays how common this really is among progressives. Is one day I come to you and I go, well, Simone, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I have thoughts that aren't entirely masculine. And so I think that I have a feminine side to me as well. And because of that, I think
What?
that I need to identify as something other than just he, which means, and I know you didn't know this, but you've been sleeping with a whatever this whole time. And
Oh
because you
god, yeah,
found me
that would make
attractive,
me
that
yeah.
means you are either a bisexual or pansexual now, or you have to divorce me.
That is a yeah, that
I've
would
heard a lot of people be
it's a lot of
quite distressed
disruption.
by
That's very
this when this
scary.
happens.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like the other
Hmm.
person is now basically taken ownership of your sexuality in, like, a really weird and delusional and aggressive
Yeah,
way.
without your consent, your sexuality suddenly needs to change or your life falls apart. You choose.
Yeah, well, not even that. They're even like, "Your sexuality needs to change, or if you leave me, I haven't really changed on the inside, so clearly you always found somebody who is really a woman attractive." And this is, like, a huge deal for, like, gay people, right? Where the partner's like, "Actually, I know we've been in a gay relationship our entire life, and you've identified as gay your entire life, but now you're bisexual because I decided." And the person can be like, "Well, no, I'm not." And they're gonna be like, "Well, I've always been this way, and you've always been attracted to me, so clearly you were, or you're just transphobic."
Oh boy. Yeah. That's
It's weird how, like, coercive and gross parts of the trans movement are.
it's rough. Yeah, it's and I mean, I there when I was a kid, there would be people where my mom was like, "Oh yeah, so and so's partner," because I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, so stuff like this happened all the time. Like they now identify as a woman, and so now I guess she's a lesbian, and also like I think the problem
Did
too is
you
that
ever think about the other partner there where they're like, now she's a lesbian or, like, bisexual?
yeah, that there's also this requirement that now you have to like identify with this community
It's like,
because
"You want your kids to have 2 parents? Bisexual or else."
yeah, it's something. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, it's effed up. It's really effed up. The whole thing is just so coercive and gross. I'm like, when I say gross, I don't mean gross because of who they are. I mean gross because of the way they force themselves on other people. And this is like a big deal of like you're a gold star lesbian, and now somebody's saying no, you're actually not. You didn't know it, and I didn't know it yet, but actually I was a man.
Well, and I think the other trouble of it is this wouldn't matter if we didn't make gender such a big deal. And yet, since the 70s, gender has been made this its own separate
Gender
thing, and it
was
really
made
matters.
a big deal by the alphabet soup crowd. Like,
Exactly, and, like, if it didn't matter so much, you'd be like, "Oh, whatever." Like, I so remember that, like, I love the end of the scene, Some Like It Hot, where he's just like, "Listen, I'm a woman.
yeah,
I'm really a man," and he's
1950s,
like,
and we can make it work. And I
"Yeah,
think people do not
nobody's perfect."
know
Yeah, like,
before
that should
the
be how it is.
the way that the gender movement like went. We have our episode on the debauched 50s or whatever. Like something like 20% of like young men engaged in like mutual masturbation with other young men. Like it just was not a thing back then. You might have had like the odd, like murder of like a gay person or something like that. I'm not saying that this didn't happen and it wasn't horrible, but there are multiple directions this movement could have gone, and the direction of gay and trans identity as a special class versus we need to just stop caring about this stuff, it led to a lot of negative externalities.
Yeah, it's sad because it came from a good place. I mean, I think it came from a place of wanting good things and assuming this would be good for people. People
Yeah.
didn't come out. This wasn't some cackling like, this is how I make everyone miserable. It's not like some Sailor Moon. I'm going to harvest all their happiness and take it from my energy sphere or whatever it is they did. I never really got what they were trying to do. The evil people in Sailor Moon. I didn't get it. I couldn't pay attention to the show, and so I was always
I
very
actually have
confused.
no idea what they were trying to do either.
Okay, so it's not just me. It's like what is anyway, fine, go off. But yeah, it just well-meaning people causing such sad that's what makes it the worst, is that this was people really trying to make themselves and the world happier and better. And even though we don't really care about happiness, like they really do. It's like someone really just trying to make a chocolate cake and then like just producing a giant turd, even though like all they
No,
want
but
is
here's
chocolate
the
cake.
thing. Some of them, and many of the OGs of like the gender movement we've talked about in other episodes, like the leftists turning on the trans movement,
Mm.
they've come out and they've been like, "I'm sorry. I thought I was good at making cake, but clearly I wasn't supposed to take a dump in it. I'm not going to make you eat that. That was like horrible. Let's try to find another solution here." And then there's another group that's like, "Eat it. Eat it or it means you want me dead. Eat it or it means you want to kill every
Well,
one of my."
eat it, and if you don't look happy while you eat it, if you don't smile and slurp down every last bite, with a shit-eating grin.
Yeah, and then
Sorry, and
some
I'm not supposed
people
to
are
swear on this,
actually
but
doing that. They're
yeah.
eating it like, and the person's like, and the rest of us are like, bro, that's what are you
You're like, "Don't
doing?
do no,
Like,
no, 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 no." Yeah, yeah. Oh, well.
all right, love you to death, Simone. You are the perfect wife. You are my. I on this chart, I'd be 100. They say, "What's your happiness?" I'm 100. I'm 100, and it's all because of Simone and my kids. Mostly Simone.
Totally, man. No. It's mostly the kids and we both know it. Come on. They're so funny. They're so great.
They're good. I mean, they're certainly not bringing my happiness down. We'll wait till they get into more trouble, but I'm looking forward to that. I think they'll get
Oh
into fun
god.
trouble.
They're gonna get in so much I can't even imagine. Yeah. Every time we give them a roll. Oh, so it's a boundary for me to cross. Thank you. Thank you for presenting me with this new opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so screwed. Well,
All right. Very excited for dinner tonight because you haven't made bolognese in a year or whatever, at least.
a long time. And you
Did
want me
you
to so you're just super anti spaghetti. It has to be spirals or bow ties.
literally anything else? Bow ties, circles,
I'll see what I have. Circles. What are we
you know,
making?
little
SpaghettiOs?
cylinders.
So there's macaroni. There's
Macaroni works. Macaroni's a
I
curved
don't know
circle.
what we have. I think I might have used our last. I'll check. I'm pretty sure we have stuff. Now, if we have choice, do you prefer macaroni with
Shell.
little ridges on it? Do you prefer bow ties, or do you prefer? I think it's called like the screws. Toasty calls them screws. He loves the screws.
Screws, I love. Shells, I love. I also love bow ties. I love all the things. What I'd ask you to do is make sure you're running from a recipe today. With gochujang. It would be like if I was going to add gochujang to like this, go from like an AI recipe or something like that. Don't just wing it based on like bolognese, because your bolognese in the past has not been very good. Like whatever you think a good bolognese recipe, what you used to think was one, was not a good recipe. So I'm just asking you to base this on something other than
Well,
whatever
what
your
kind of
go-to.
recipe should I ask for then? Because I was just going to saute onions and garlic, and then add meat, and then add gochujang. Maybe after like dissolving it in water a little bit to get it so it doesn't clump, and then add marinara. What would you do differently?
Maybe at some stage try like coconut milk or like
No,
more cream would
no.
work well, or like ask an AI.
I will ask an AI.
Thank you. We're ending early today. You have time to ask an AI.
Hardly. No, ending on time is ending it giving me an actual interval to take care of Indy, go downstairs, start preparation. So, no, but also like I'm addicted to talking with you, so I can't. I
I'm your
can't.
AI chat addict. This is your.
I mean, obviously, because the only thing that actually got me engaged on AI chat platforms was the prospect of potentially making an AI chat Malcolm that I could chat with when narcoleptically fall asleep sometimes because you need rest because you refuse to sleep anymore. You used to take naps after waking up at 2 a.m. Now you're just
I don't
Elon
have
Musking it.
time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
make time because you're not allowed to die. All right.
All right. I'll try not to die, to never die. Love you to death, Simone.
I love you too, Malcolm. I'm looking up a recipe now. Now we're all a little bit shiny because of the freaking heat. Worst. Want the darkness. I wonder how many of our viewers also have reverse seasonal affective disorder, where when there's more light, you get more sad, and when there's more darkness, you get more
So
happy.
we got to tell an amazing story about our kid yesterday.
Oh gosh.
So our kid comes home from school with a Pokemon card, and we didn't give him a Pokemon card. So we ask him, "Where'd you get this Pokemon card from?" And he goes, "Well, this other kid
He
tore,
ripped his piece of art.
ripped his piece of art." And so he told the other kid that if he didn't,
Well, that there were consequences for damaging his
yeah,
property.
yes, there's consequences. And then he said that he would tell the teacher if they didn't give him their Pokemon card. And this worked apparently. He strong-armed some other kid into giving him his Pokemon
He
card.
blackmailed this other kid. He blackmailed a child. which is
I just love where I'm like, "Octavian, what?" And he's like, "There has to be consequences."
well, and that's I like maybe a little bit too much hammer this home. I'm like, you did this, you pay the price. Like that's a consequence. Like you lose the toy, you don't just get a replacement. Now you don't have the toy anymore. You have to understand because that's how life works. I know you just want to get them.
He's running a protection racket in school now, you know?
Well, but I also just he sees things through such a commercial and mercantile lens. Like he's like a Kardashian from Star Trek.
Oh,
He's
no, every single person he talks to, it is always like it was his brother and stuff like that. His brother's like, "Can I have a toy?" And he's like, "Well, can I have some money?" And then what he will do is Toast will be like, "Well, I don't have any money." And so he goes, "Go tell dad you need money." Ugh.
you know, and then sometimes they trade things, which is great. And more like they also very often just gift things to each other and they give things away to kids at school all the time. But when I talk with him about his friends at school, Octavian will be like, "Oh yeah, you know, if I hang out with so and so, maybe he will give me his red gemstone and I will give him a green army man." And like he just thinks about like, this trade partner would be advantageous for the following reasons. I should engage more with them, which is just hilarious. And I don't know what to make of it.
Well, I mean, it's a positive, you know, evolutionary trait to
Or
it
are we
like
hammering it home too much at home? Like, because I'm always like, well, what are you going to do for me? You'll
what do
get
you
it
mean?
if you do X. Like, I am also very mercenary about things. I've
Uh,
always looked at things that way. I
I
don't.
don't think culturally speaking that I have any problem with this. If you
Okay.
want to hammer this home, hammer it home.
Okay. Thank you. So our only point of parental conflict still is with junk food. You're like,
Junk food.
shuffle it in, and I'm like, oh, highly processed food. This is horrible. Can't they just eat whole foods? And
But they want candy.
I want candy. Except Titan demands candy all the time and then like doesn't eat it. She thinks that everything is to be licked, but she can't even finish a lollipop. Like we had her on one lollipop for 3 days and she didn't even get close to finishing it. Like you could still see its full structure, like the ridges on the outside. It was like, and she does that with bread. I'll give her a roll and she'll be like, "Nah." Like, that's sweetie. No, it's never going to be eaten that way. It's a, oh, just like they drive me so nuts. She just wants to have it. So these days I get very quick to dissolve candy and I put it straight into her mouth. And so there's nothing she can like hold
Oh
on.
yeah, cotton candy. We gotta do it this weekend, I guess.
Yeah, we should do more cotton candy. I'm all for it.
Oh, and by the way, you have to find the batteries for the boat because I checked all around the basement. I couldn't
I
find them.
looked all around the basement too. I guess is there a chance you used to charge it in the kitchen of the like
Yeah,
the
could it be somewhere? I'll check some other closets.
yeah,
I mean, clearly we moved it somewhere.
to keep it safe. Yeah, and also because we have to be really careful with the kids, you know, and they'll take anything. They're little thieves.
Well, they might have broken one of the batteries.
You think?
Well, because they took the thing that I had to clamp the piece onto off of it.
Oh, of course.
It's unscrewed. And it was a shiny golden looking
Oh,
screw.
a nut. Okay, well, we can find that part at least. Oh, yes, the gold nut. Yes, I saw Toasty walking around with that for the longest time.
Well, do you know where it is?
No, of course, these things just disappear. I do have a bag full of all of the loose parts that Torsten has stolen over time because our furniture is basically falling apart. He just takes off all the screws and I try to keep them in one place. And then I have this delusional vision that someday I'll go around the house and screw everything back in. It hasn't happened yet. So now just we have rickety furniture. But like, I don't throw it away. I keep it because I know it goes to stuff. And that Torsten's just slowly disassembling our entire household.
And our older kid, Octavian, has learned to scare people, which I did as a kid, that he thinks is so funny. He will wait behind corners and go, boo! And now he'll like try to ask like a ghost or something and make ghost noises when I'm using the restroom or something outside to try to scare me. So I've got to act all spooked.
The great thing is that he can't stop laughing when he tries to hide or be sneaky.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, he's got me a few times.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
He's got a lot of patience. That's the thing. He only laughs at first. All right, get started, Simone.
All right, pulling up the outline. Okay. All right.
You should have come in sooner.
It's okay. Next one, maybe.
I'll get it. I'll get it, okay? I'll get it and then I'll
All right.
The bugs are still, the invisible bugs are still in there, right?
Pretty sure. Yeah, the bugs live on the leaves. What do you think, Torsten?
Mommy.
Did you see birds back there? All right, let's keep going.